Joining us now from the Viking World Headquarters, Pete Bercich. First of all, how did you get yourself in there? That's impressive that you have gotten through the security that they have set up around that facility.
Well, I mean, fingers crossed. I entered my old code and it still works. So, I mean, maybe they don't know I'm here yet, but I'm in.
All right. So. We have not talked to you on television since Mike Zimmer was head coach. That was the last time we spoke. A lot of things have changed with this franchise. Before we get into the draft and what the Vikings do at number 12, what is your gut telling you right now? What are you feeling about the transition to this point?
It's interesting because I'm familiar with guys like Greg Minuski, the new linebacker coach. He and I played together here back in '94. I've been able to sit down and talk with Ryan Grigson a little bit. We played against each other in college. Had a chance to talk to Kwesi a couple times, and with Kevin O'Connell being here, I think the big change is more so offensively than defensively is going to be Ed Donatel and the defense. I mean, it's going to be a different type of scheme, much more different than what they're going to do offensively. Now, granted, no one really knows, right? You can only go by what they've done in the past.
Right.
So how much of it will they implement? Or how much are they going to take? How much are they going to keep? What are they going to do? It's going to be very interesting to see play out. But a very, very positive group and high tempo, and that's what impressed me most about Coach O'Connell is he's just that way. And you can't help but feel that way when you're around him. So the attitude, the speed, that kind of those things that they're going to implement here are going to be good.
All right, we have the draft now, and before we kind of knew the drill, right? Rick Spielman wanted to have about 10 draft picks. He had the tendency to trade back versus jumping up. We have no blueprint on what Kwesi is going to do. Is there any concerns going into this draft with a guy that's never done an NFL draft in your mind?
I mean, you have concerns no matter who is in charge, and you bring up an interesting point. The rest of the NFL doesn't know how Kwesi's going to run his draft either. So does that mean more opportunities for trades? Does that mean other things that may come his way that maybe didn't come the way of Rick Spielman? It'll be very, very interesting to see. The main thing is have on your board the 5, 6, 7 guys that you think are worthy of a number 12 pick. And if any of those people are not there, you have to, again, pick the next highest guy unless you could trade down. Or if you see someone that's a value ahead of you and what you have to give up isn't going to bankrupt the franchise, then you may want to make that move as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how Kwesi goes about his business. And again, it's going to take 2 or 3 seasons before you really get a really good evaluation of how a lot of these guys are going to fit in the program. This is a long-term process. That's why you have a GM. A coach wants to win this year. He wants to win tomorrow, and he'll do whatever he can do and bring in whomever he has to turn this team around as quickly as possible, whereas the GM, he has long-term in mind.
So this is what everybody's waiting for. This is what everyone has gathered their children around the set. Pete's pick, number 12. Tell everybody in the living room, quiet down, because they want to hear this. What are you thinking at number 12?
If you look at it this way, where on this team would the number 12 pick come in on day one be a starter? You've got cornerback, you've got safety, I believe an edge rusher. That's kind of talent that you're looking for because, believe it or not, Zadarius Smith is on third down a much more effective inside pass rusher. Just watch the tape of him in Green Bay, 26 sacks in 2 seasons.
Right.
A lot of them came from the inside on 3rd and 4th downs. So those are the positions I'm looking towards.
Okay.
And Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU, if he's there at 12, I think that's the perfect time to grab him. He's going to fit. He already wears purple and yellow. He's going to come in and I think long term be a great football player for this franchise. Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. I think he's another really, really good prospect, one of the best safeties I think that has come out of this draft in years. There are some other good safeties later on, though. So if you don't get him, I think there's some other opportunities later on in the draft. And I think Jermaine Johnson, the defensive end out of Florida State. He's originally an Eden Prairie kid. I liked him before I knew he was from up here. But this kid, Donatel mentions this, linebackers and outside linebackers have to be physical. This guy is physical. He brings it when he plays. You just watch him, the way he attacks blocks, the way he sacks the quarterback. This guy just is, he's a dynamo, man. I mean, tell you what, it's fun to watch this kid play. So I think those are the reasons that you want to pick someone. Those are the characteristics that it's going to be harder to find later on in the draft. But any one of those three are there at pick number 12. I think the Vikings are in great shape. There are other guys too, don't get me wrong, but those other guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, I don't think will make it down there. I think you have to trade up to get a talent like him. In fact, I would actually feel better with a guy like Jermaine Johnson at 12.
How about this guy, Jordan Davis, a defensive lineman from Georgia? The size of this guy is ridiculous. 6'6", 341, and he set some sort of speed record at the Combine. I mean, you're talking about pressure up the middle, and last year the Vikings' run defense, I think, was third worst in the entire NFL. Would that guy be a key if some of these other pieces that you first brought up weren't there? Would you be comfortable with a massive piece of humanity like that?
Would you want someone like that on the team? Absolutely. The question is going to be where do you get it? And having watched a little bit of film on him, I have some reservations just with his foot speed and some of these other things. All interior defensive linemen, the great ones, they have unbelievable feet. They're not just enormous people, but they move so well. And if you watch him on game day, you get further into the film, those feet start getting heavy, he starts bending at the waist. You can't do that in the NFL.
This opening day lineup for this Vikings team. In other words, do you see a massive hole where, boy, they hopefully can hit something here that can stick right out of the gate? And I know it's a lot asking of a rookie to step in and play at the next level.
Well, with the money you're paying them, they have to, right? I mean, those guys, in all seriousness, those guys you draft early, you really need them to step up, especially if you're going to take that pick at number 12. Whoever that is needs to be plugged in right away and perform, and produce results. But again, I go back to the cornerback position. We need depth. We need depth at defensive line. You need depth at outside linebacker. Safeties, another spot where I think somebody can step in and play. Wide receiver, you'd like to have some depth there. I'd still love to see him get a really good blocking tight end. The tight end blocking in this offense is very, very important, at least from what I've seen and what the Rams, were doing in the past. Could all that change? Absolutely. But the tight end position is required to do a lot of the dirty work, and that's going to be very, very important to have. So we'll see if the Vikings do that, and who's going to be our number 2 running back. I think that's the other question as well. So all in all, you don't need a whole revamping and a bunch of starters out of the draft. So that's good to begin with.
All right. Pete Bercich, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. That's a heck of an off-season home you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like it.
Well, don't blow my cover. They don't realize I'm sleeping here at night. So
that's all right. Nobody watches my show, so we don't have to worry. Pete Bercich.
Awesome. Thank you.
It works all the way around.
Works out. It works out with you every time, Jim.
Yes. Pete Bercich, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be back.